Hey guys, it's Charlie, and for my tying instructions for the Blue Perdigon, I thought I'd put my instructions on YouTube, and so here we go. So in my vise I have a Hannock 400 BL. I'm going to be tying a size 16 Blue Perdigon today, and I'll get to the rest of the materials. I'm using a 2.3 millimeter slotted bead. You can use it on a size 16. You can use a 2.3 or a 2.8. You can oversize it. And you can see what I do to put my bead on. I put it in my vise. I'm able to then just roll the bead till the hole lines up and slide it on, at which point I can rotate it across and get ready to tie. I've got it at a little angle there. There we go. So let's talk about the materials. For threads, I'll be using 2 threads today. Both will be the Ultra Thread 70 denier, and I'll be using in black and pink. And for the tinsel, I will be using the Sabai, and this is the ultraviolet. And the ultraviolet has a clear pearl look to it. You'll see that when you find the Sabai, which is kind of hard stuff to find, that there is also a pearl blue. And the pearl blue, when you put it under the UV resin, turns green, but this ultraviolet turns blue. So the ultraviolet. For the tail feathers, I'm going to be using Coq de Lion. And let's get tying. So I'm going to start off with my black material. Let's get that a little more. And I'm going to tie in right behind the bead. So here we go. One thing I do is I counter spin so that I'm laying my thread flat. So now I have a very flat base, and I take 4 to 6 barbs off of my feather. I like more than 3, and I don't like more than 6. I used to do 3, but it seemed like the rocks would tear it off, and so it's always nice to have a few extra. So I'm going to measure about a shank length for my feather. Couple of turns just to make sure. And there we go. Now, I can see my thread is still pretty flat. And every turn, by the way, cords it up again. So do a few. When you start to see it cord up, spin counterclockwise, and I'm going to take it all the way up to the bead, at which point, by the way, I have these little curved scissors. Clip those off. Now that I'm at the bead, I'm going to take my ultraviolet Sabai flat tinsel, And I generally try to get it kind of in that slot, just to hold it. Let's just do it that way. Now the big deal on this tinsel is I'm going to take my thread down to about 2/3, and I'm going to go back up. Now what I'm going to try to do, I'm starting to cord up, so I'm going to do a counter spin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get back up to my bead, and I'm going to go about 2/3 of the way to where I tied the tinsel in. Back up. Counter spin, keeping my thread flat, about halfway to where I tied the tinsel in. Back up, and then about 1/4 of the way, and then back up. And now I've got this really nice, very slender taper. I'm going to put a 1/2 hitch in, and I'm going to use the function of my rotary vise. And I'm going to do touching turns on my tinsel here. Nice. And when this ultraviolet tinsel covers that black thread, it gives it a blue sheen. It's really cool. So now the story. A friend of mine was a sector judge for the Youth World Championships that were being held here in Colorado. And by the way, won. Two, and then 1 in front. So my friend was a sector judge. There was a kid from Spain that was doing better on his beat than anybody else had done, and he asked the kid what fly he was using, and this is the pattern. The kid gave him this and gave him instructions how to tie it. And so my buddy was sworn to secrecy, and after a couple of years he asked the kid if he could tell me about this fly, and the kid said sure, everybody knows about it now. So anyway, the thing about this fly is to keep it very slim. Even though we have a small carrot taper to it, we're very slim. Take note that I only used 3 wraps to lock down my tinsel, and now I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3. That's all you need, because we're going to be covered up with a UV epoxy. So I'm locked down, and now I'm going to put in my hot spot. I'm using the Ultra Thread 70 denier, probably hot pink, whatever color if you want orange. 1, 2, and then I take the thread forward, and 3. And by the way, at this point, I'm going to cut that's plenty. And I'm now going to turn it upside down, and I allow myself 3 wraps to kind of give me a solid pink base. And then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Go back, lock it in. got my little curved scissors that I can get really close, cut it off. We've got everything except the UV epoxy. I'm going to be using, the resin I'm using is something that I purchase off of Amazon, and it is an epoxy used by jewelers. And the only negative of this epoxy is that it kind of sets up a little quick, and so, by the way I say that, easily you can do a fly or two. But the other thing, a trick that I do, is I put a slight angle when in the vise. Now when I put that epoxy on, it'll tend to flow downhill. Look at that. There we go. Now, I put my epoxy in the little silicone cup from Loon, and I don't know if you guys know the trick or if you use the Loon cup, but at the end of it, oops, let's get my fly done while the epoxy's in the right place. Just about 10 seconds at the most. Anyway, what I was saying is, when you want to clean your little Loon cup out, just hit it with the light, and then the epoxy will come right out. This stuff that I use, this jeweler's epoxy for making jewelry, is by far the clearest that I've seen, and it doesn't seem to cloud up as bad as some of the others have for me in the past. Now that I've done that, I guess I will tell you that also, if you want to put a wing case on, which I've stopped doing, but if you want to put a wing case on, you can use the Loon Black UV, and I've put a little bit in my Loon cup, and all I do is just take a little dab right on top of my slot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to do it one more time because I used to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There you go. By the way, take note that in my little cup, I have my UV black. I want to clean it out. Just hit it with my torch. And that just comes straight out. If I talk about the epoxies in the light, I have a 395 nanometer light. They're about $25 on Amazon with a rechargeable battery. And for, if you want to get a lifetime supply of clear epoxy, here's the stuff I have. It just says resin, hard, transparent, quick curing, toxic free, and it sets up in about 10 seconds on a fly. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will look forward to the fly swap.